So we have the slide up, which is doing an overview of the session. This is a standard that promotes customer satisfaction, and we like to begin with the end in mind. So we're going to talk customer satisfaction first. We're going to talk about the benefits of a quality management system, and then we're going to go into the principles. Zamala, you want to say something about the organizational self-assessment?
The self-assessment is, as we go along, we will be asking you a few questions. Now, this is for you. So get a pen and paper or some way that you are going to record your responses. And the indication of yes or no that you give will say to you how ready you are for ISO 9001 certification or just declaration, because you don't have to be certified, but it gives you an idea of how much you may not know or you already know that you are ready for quality management system as per the ISO 9001. So this is your responses. You're not going to share them. You will keep a note as we go along. They will come up.
Okay, thank you, Zamala. And those questions are incorporated in the presentation on the 7 principles. So once they come on, then Zamala will come in again. Then Zamala is going to look at quality in context. There's a bigger picture to this. There's a whole quality infrastructure. Zamala is going to talk to this. And then we're going to go up to the next steps. I mean, at this point, you have been exposed to the body of knowledge. Some of you will realize you already know the body of knowledge. We will let you know what MORS is offering as far as virtual offerings, and also SLBS will talk to their services. And then we have the question and answer component. Again, we will ask you to type your questions in the chat. Because so many people are on, we don't want to take the chance to turn on those audios and get all that background noise coming in. So we apologize for that. We really would like to hear your voice, but just for this session, we need you to type in the chat instead. Like I said, we have some prizes, but those prizes come with a bit of an assessment. We have to assess you to give a prize. So basically, the questions will be based on what was done during the presentation. We'll tell you about the prizes as well. And finally, we have a feedback poll. Again, the presentation will be sent to you, and any questions we do not have an opportunity to answer in this session, we are going to send the responses to those questions when we send the presentation to you. And so we're looking at some factors. Again, begin with the end in mind. It's about customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction is all of our business, without a doubt. On the whole, satisfaction is, and think about it, you want satisfaction in every aspect of your life. So there is a standard that's talking to that kind of satisfaction, customer satisfaction. You change customer to recipient and you start seeing the value of this body of knowledge. So customer satisfaction, let's talk about those factors that impact customer satisfaction. First of all, your product service quality. And so if you're setting up a system, you have to be working on your product service quality because that impacts customer satisfaction. Customer service, the manner in which you deliver that product or service also impacts customer satisfaction. So that has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at your system. Your location, and we know it these days, people don't want you to just be physical, you must be virtual as well. So that contributes to customer satisfaction as well. And price, or you know the customers. It's about value for money. If you're going to charge a particular price, they need to understand, especially if they find that price expensive, they need to understand what is the value in that for them. So all of this are just some of the factors contributing to customer satisfaction. Bottom line benefits related to this. Again, I mean, do I have to tell you this? That if your customers are happy, that means more customers are coming in, new customers are coming in, repeat customers are coming in, and that implies increased sales. A beautiful thing about QMS is it has both a soft component and it has a technical component. And so it also encourages you to improve on your operational effectiveness and efficiency. And we're talking increased productivity. And if you have increased productivity, then you're reducing operating costs. So if you're spending less and you're making more, you can understand that's a whole lot of profits. Now, even for you, those of you on board who are not into a business, you're into public service and nonprofit, you too understand that for an organization to continue to survive, persons must keep coming to you. Because if nobody is coming to your organization, they might as well shut you down. So customer satisfaction is just as important to somebody who has a business as well as somebody who is working in a nonprofit organization. We cannot stress the importance of increased operational effectiveness and efficiency. We have to feel we're getting better. We have to feel the organization is progressing. It can't be a case of the same errors are being made over and over and over again. So the alignment benefits. This is guiding you as far as operational work and as far as project work. QMS is going to ensure your operational work is aligned to your strategic direction, so is your project work. Now, here's the beauty of this. Any kind of work, be it work at home, be it work in the office, be it work in the workplace, any kind of work will fall under either operational work or project work. So at home, we're talking about washing, cooking, lovemaking, operational work, repetitive, ongoing. But then maybe you have a birthday party for your child or your significant other, or you celebrated a special event or milestone, and there you go, you have project work. So there is a standard that's guiding both operational work and project work. Now, I know we have special standards for project management, like the ISO 21500, like the PMBOK. Those of you who have done project management, what you will remember, that was in project management, there was a knowledge area or subject area called quality management. Similar, in quality management, there is a section called design and development in the ISO 9001 standard that talks to project work. So this QMS standard allows you and it guides you as far as operational work as well as project work. And remember, if it's guiding you for work at home as well as work in the workplace. Now you change customer to recipient. That becomes recipient satisfaction. That means that's your child. That's your significant other. That's your parents. So you have a standard out there that's guiding you to ensure that these important people in your life are being satisfied. And meanwhile, this standard is being called QMS. And so here are the principles. 7 quality management principles: customer focus, leadership, engagement of people, process approach, improvement, evidence-based decision-making, relationship management. We have to spend some time on this slide because we need to demonstrate, and all of you in here are professionals, you are managers, you are maybe CEOs, you are senior personnel. That means you have reached a certain level of educational study. You are the expert in your area, more than likely. Now, if you're the expert in your area, you must recognize that whatever area you're in, whether you're in procurement, whether you're in communication, whether you are in marketing, whether you are into production, these principles, leadership, engagement of people, process approach, improvement, evidence-based decision-making, relationship management, and customer focus is important. This is additional value to this, that if you know this provides guidance on any aspect of work you are involved in. So in this standard ISO 9001, which is what this presentation is based on, the focus is on the customer. But let's just change the focus a bit. Let's say, for instance, the focus is on the environment. So you're now looking at the ISO 14000 series. You agree that if we change customer to environment, leadership, engagement of people, process, all of this is still important. So by learning about this, you are also learning about the general principles of management systems. We can change customer focus to occupational health and safety focus. And then again, all of this still applies. We can change customer focus to food safety focus. All of this still applies. You start to see the flexibility of this particular standard. And we want to, at this point, I need to recognize Davindra, who is in here from Trinidad. And Davindra, in his company, they're right now promoting a Trinidad standard, which looks at an integrated management system, a TTS 626. So Davindra is in there. If you're interested in the standard, you can also always contact him privately. What Trinidad Bureau Standard have done, they have taken a CARICOM standard and upgraded it, and it's a nice upgrade. So it's now a TTS standard, and what it promotes is an integrated system. So the focus is on the customer, the focus is on the environment, the focus is on occupational health and safety. You can change the focus based on your need. But these leadership, engagement of people, process approach, improvement, evidence-based relationship, and customer focus will always be important, without a doubt. So we're looking at the very first principle. Now, I want to spend some time on this principle, because if you get this, then you will understand how all the other principles relate to this. You know, we hear all over the place people talk about being customer-centric, patient-centered, student-focused. We have putting you first. We're hearing all of this. And if this is what you're about and you're truly about, then let's talk about what it is to be customer focused. Customer focus means that you have taken the time to understand the needs and expectations of your customers. This is why you would do your customer research. Very important. I remember meeting this friend of mine, and she told me she was about to start a business. And I said to her, what business are you planning to go into? And she said to me, I'm not telling you, and I'm not telling anybody in case they steal my idea. I tell her, you recognize that once you open the business, everybody will know what idea you had. You know, so at this point, I had to talk about your unique value proposition too, and told her she was missing an opportunity there to get from me my expectations with regard to her business. When you're opening a business, you want to talk to people. This is your indirect customer research. Now, the thing about the QMS too, and ISO 9, there's a caveat. The caveat is, yes, we will aim to meet your needs and expectations. We will aim to even exceed. However, we will do that within the confines of the law. That's the caveat. You will not break the law to do so. You know, I remember another story. This is a case of a trainee who was a cashier at one of the hospitals. And so she told me about this experience of her. She said this woman came up to her at the window. She's a cashier. And the woman said to her, I need you to grant me a little favor. That's what the woman said. So she said she knew the woman, but she wouldn't say she knows the woman very well. So it's more like an acquaintance. And so the woman said to her, I have to do a surgery. And so I'm here to pay for the surgery. So the woman continues and she says, when I pay for the surgery, you will give me a receipt. So the cashier is saying to me, but that's what I'm there to do. She doesn't understand why that's a favor. You know, that's her job. You pay for the service and we give you a receipt. The woman says, later, my boyfriend will come and pay for the surgery, but you must give him a receipt too. The cashier said to me, she said to the woman, you want me to take jail? You see, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that's the caveat to it. We will aim to meet your needs and expectations, but will not break the law to do it. Moving right along. So these customers, and you know them, they can be very fickle, they can be very demanding. They have all those needs and expectations. You need to know, it is better to know than not to know. And your aim now is to deliver a product or service in a manner which is satisfying to them. To deliver this, you want to do that consistently, very important. And so all of those needs and expectations are stated, you need to make a decision as an organization, which of these, so say for instance, 20 needs and expectations are stated. Make a decision, what is your capacity, what can you deliver? And if you decide you can deliver 5 of them or 10, you can deliver on 10 of those needs and expectations, then this is what you ensure you deliver consistently on. And that's where QMS comes in. The QMS comes in and tells you have identified what you can deliver, then this tool is going to help you to deliver consistency. Because only when you're delivering consistently that customers begin to trust you. They have confidence in you. They have more assurance in you. But right now, the funding agencies and a lot of organizations are requiring companies to have a QMS for them to even consider doing business with them.
Definitely. We see examples even here where customers approach us saying, hey, I have an opportunity to benefit from this contract from a US agency, and they would like to know whether or not we are ISO 9001 certified. And that is a prerequisite for the contract. And if they're not meeting those requirements, they miss out on these wonderful opportunities. Now, the thing with the ISO 9001, it says to the US company that you are meeting the customer's needs, yes, but you're following the law, you're documenting, there's traceability, accountability. It gives an assurance. And getting even if you're not certified, because some of these companies, if you're not yet at certification stage, but you can demonstrate that you're applying the principles and you have some type of quality management system in place, then you definitely can reach and get some of those opportunities that are out there.
Thank you, Zamala. And Zamala is talking about self-declaration. Yes, that even if we're not saying you have to get certified, but at least you can do a self-declaration, and self-declaration is acceptable, that you have a QMS in place. And what they can do, they can always send in people to do assess or assess your system, or hire somebody to come and assess to confirm that you do have one in place. But what these companies are looking for, they're looking for assurance, they're looking for confidence that you can deliver, and you can deliver successfully and consistently. Keep that in mind. The customer's journey. Oh, wow, what can I say about that? Well, I have to tell you about when somebody's coming to my home on a Thursday, when I clean my home on a Saturday. So I do my cleaning on a Saturday, and somebody decides to come to my home on a Wednesday. I know by then the house is dirty. I start off by saying, what is the journey of the guests? I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of time. And that is always the case with us. We will never have enough resources, but the little resources we have, we can target it as it relates to the customer, because this is who you need to come back. You need them to come back. You need new ones coming in. And so what I do is I say to myself, okay, they're going to come through the balcony. Let me wash off the little banisters there with a little bleach and rag. They're going to come in, they will see the kitchen, make sure that's, because I have like an open concept, make sure that's presentable. They'll come in and have a seat in the living room area, pass a little pledge, and they might ask to use the bathroom. Better make sure that's clean. And then I close my boys' bedroom. My boys' bedroom always untidy. I leave mine open. So I give a perception that my whole house clean, and my whole house is clean. You know what I mean? Because I started with their journey. And I'm saying to you, managers in particular, you cannot be customer focused unless you have walked that customer's journey. You need to do that. You need to understand what they're going through. This is why sometimes marketing people hire mystery shoppers. But the best person to do it is the manager. Walk that journey. Understand what they're going through. You will understand the touch points. You will understand the pain points if you do that journey. Very important. Customer's experience. It's about an experience, people. Customer satisfaction is something the customer experiences. It is their perception. You might have felt you did a very good job, but what the customer says to you is what's important. It is their perception. You know, I went to a bank some time ago, and the receptionist I met was extremely pleasant. You know, I'm telling you, it's something else, you know, when that's not the norm. To meet people who were extremely pleasant. I was impressed. And then I needed to submit a document and wait for document. While I was waiting for the document, I heard her on the phone saying, but I told you I needed to check the child to the doctor. The doctor visit is $200. I have not received the money from you. And she sucks the teeth and she hangs up the phone. That impacted my experience. You know, people, when we're thinking of an experience, we have to think of all the senses. We have to think of what it is they're seeing, what it is they're hearing, what it is they're smelling, what it is they're tasting if that's coming into play, what it is they're touching and feeling, plus what it is they're receiving. Remember all of this if you're looking at an experience, very important. So you have decided you can deliver, but remember, the customer came to you to meet a need. So you have to show the value in what you are delivering. So this is a case you're looking at from the customer's perspective. So yes, you have your features of your product, you have the features of your service, all well and good. But you now also need to focus in benefits the customer is getting from it. Because when the customer says that price is too high, this is what your staff need to explain. Well, this is what you're going to get from what it is we're offering. Put that in a nice package called a value proposition. Very important. Validation. Throughout the standard, they will mention two V words, verification and validation. Verification. Did you do it right? You followed the right process. You put in the right inputs. You got the output you wanted. That's all well and good. Very important. Your final check before you hand over to the customer has to be a validation check, where you check what you're handing over against what the customer came into you for. Very important. We're missing out on that. We're doing the verifications. We're doing it right, but are we doing the right thing? So validation is to do the right thing. Verification is to do it right. Quality management. It's all about doing the right thing well. Nice, as simple as that. That's what it is, you know, doing the right thing well. By the way, I should have shared with you that at the end of this session, you will recognize one of two things. You will either recognize that your organization already has such a system in place, and like Zamala says, you have the option of doing a self-declaration, or you might want to do third-party certification. That's one thing you might recognize, and good for you, and kudos to you, and congratulations to you. However, some of you might recognize that there are gaps in your organizational system, at which point, don't you worry, QMS is here. So, final thing. Now, you know, in this time of COVID, where they're naming all the variants Greek letters, we have to use some Greek letters here. And I want to tell you, when it comes to QMS, the customer is the alpha and the omega, period. When it comes to QMS, the customer is the alpha and the omega. Remember, customer satisfaction is their perception. Their perception. You need to talk to them. You need to find out what their experience was like. And that information, you need to close the loop. That information has to be fed back into your system. So something you might be doing might actually be a good practice, who knows? But get the feedback from the customer, very important. And this is what it is to be customer focused. So for those of you out there claiming to be customer centric, student focused, patient centered, if you're doing all of this, then you're good to go.
But before we go to leadership, we will do a self-assessment here.
Yes.
And it's very simple. Like I said, it's your response for yourself. Does your organization regularly attract new customers? Yes, somewhat, or no? You're answering those questions for yourself. And as I said, when we come to the end, we will discuss how well you would have done and what type of direction you're going in.
We're on to leadership. So you have answered your first self-assessment question for your organization, and we're talking leadership. Now, if you're managers, you know leadership like the back of your hand. But there's some things we want to point out in the quality management system. The first thing I want to point to is a quality policy. The international standard requires that you have a quality policy if you are serious about quality management system. And this policy has to be aligned to your purpose and your direction. Remember, QMS is supposed to help you achieve your objectives. So be clear. Everybody should be on the same page as to why you exist and where you're going. Ensure your policy is aligned to this. And the standard guides you of exactly what else should appear in your policy. But there must be a quality policy. This is your intent. This is you setting the tone. Awareness of context and risk-based thinking. What can I say about this? I think Michael Porter handles that microenvironment very well. So you're looking at both your macro and you're looking at both your microenvironment. But in your microenvironment in particular, you're looking at your competitors, you're looking at your suppliers, you're looking at your customers. I must talk to you about Helen here. This is understanding context. So Helen attended one of my sessions on customer satisfaction. And during the session, by the way, Helen is a cleaner at the Mental Wellness Center. And during the session, I said to them, listen, when you're in a competitive environment where there's fierce competition, how do you ensure that you survive? And we're doing customer satisfaction. So most person says, well, make sure you satisfy them, make sure you continue meeting their needs and expectations. And I said, yeah, and that's great. But remember, somebody can come in with more resources, and you know customers, they're fickle. You know, by the way, this thing about customer loyalty, I tell people, don't believe in that. Customers about value. Customers about low price. So wherever they can get it cheaper, they're going to move, no matter how long they have been with you. Keep that in mind. So I asked the question, so how do you ensure that you survive in this competitive environment? And there was Helen. She said, Miss, let me tell you something. Every Saturday, I am up by 2 o'clock to go down to the Catcheries market to sell parsley. Miss, you see by sunrise, all my parsley gone. She said, me, miss, my parsley is organically grown. My parsley smells different. My parsley looks different. My parsley tastes different. Miss, if you want to survive fierce competition, you have to be different. This is Helen, the cleaner from the wellness center, telling me about a unique selling proposition. Imagine that. And so understand your context, understand the competition. You have to decide how you stand out among the competitors. Look at the risk. Many times we identify the risk, but we're not putting together the strategies. The more important thing is the strategies to address the risk if they occur. Keep that in mind. Leadership is about setting smart objectives. You're managers, I don't have to go through what SMART is. The only thing I want to stress there, you know that R, it's about relevance. This is what aligns it to the strategic direction. So remember that. I know sometimes they say R is realistic, be careful. Achievable, realistic, these things mean the same thing. You want that word relevant in there, or you want a word aligned in there. Something showing it's linked to your strategic direction. So as you achieve your objectives, you're achieving your strategic direction. Performance review, leadership, you have set the objectives, you have deployed the objectives, you need to review your performance against these objectives. Absolutely necessary. Necessary resources, and the standard talks to people, it talks to infrastructure, it talks to environment, it talks to organizational knowledge, it talks to your measuring and monitoring devices, it tells you about those resources, and it provides guidance. What I want you to note is the standard, when it talks about the environment, it looks at both the physical and the psychosocial environment. Your people have to be comfortable where they're working. Keep that in mind. You want to foster teamwork. Remember, this is about efficiency and effectiveness. There must be synergy, foster teamwork, and always encourage and recognize. Leadership. This is what the standard promotes with regard to leadership.
So we have our second self-assessment question. And now I want you to think of your organization and whether or not your organization regularly engages in risk-based thinking. Yes, somewhat, or no?
Okay, engagement of people, that's the third principle. This is about your staff. Communication, awareness, competence, appreciation. I just want to say two things about this. Competence is a combination of things. It is about your education, your training, your skill, your experience, your attitude. All of that contributes to your competence, especially when it comes to QMS, where QMS straddles between soft skills and hard skills. So you need strong technical people, but these technical people need to have soft skills because you're dealing with the customer. Appreciation. The deepest need in any human being, that's William James, a psychologist, said that, the deepest need in any human being is to feel appreciated. So as you engage your people, keep that in mind. Remember, as a manager, you don't want to unleash incompetent people onto your customers. That's just not kosher. Process approach. And you cannot talk quality without mentioning Deming. Not so, you just must mention Deming. And one of my favorite quotes from Deming is one that says, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you are doing. Isn't that nice? So you want to understand, if somebody knows what they're doing, ask them to explain it as a process. Tell them, explain it as a process. But you yourself need to understand a process. Now, process approach, and notice big and bold, we have standards for products and services because QMS is a system standard. Remember that? It is for your whole system. It's for your, however, within those systems, you are trying to produce quality products and services. And so you reference the standards related to the products and services. And that's where that comes in. So a couple of things to note with regard to the process approach. One, identify your value chain. Your value chain is those activities that allows you to produce your product or service and take it to the market. With your value chain, you have the support services, your HR, your IT, your finance. Everybody has to be on board supporting that value chain. Remember, it is the value chain that takes the product to the market. It is not your HR, it is not your finance. So finance, HR, IT, you're there to support the value chain. Keep that in mind. PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. Oh, your managers, you know about that. I don't have to go through that. Everybody must be using this. focus on output and outcome. For too long, our focus has been on the output, which is our deliverable. We need to focus on the outcome, and customer satisfaction is an outcome. We need to get rid of those silos, too many of them in too many organizations. Systems, their system interactions, and that's why it's called process approach. These system interactions are very important. It's within a system, and processes interact with other processes in other departments. It's everybody working together to achieve the same goals and objectives. Documented information. It is a documented system. People like to say it is a system of documents. No, 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 no. Anything that is sustainable should be documented. You are ensuring that it continues in the absence of any one person. So your document information, your procedures, your checklists, your templates, your specifications, your records, don't forget your records. The standard tells you, you maintain the procedures, you maintain the checklist, you maintain the templates, but you retain the records. Remember that? Remember, you don't tamper with the records. The records are evidence that the work was done. The template, the SOPs, that's to guide the work. This is about productivity. You must have process metrics. You must be measuring what's going on with your particular process. Set targets, set measures, and check them. Very important. Process control. This is what you control. Managers, you can't control people, but you can control the processes. You know, it is said that 85% of the problems in organizations are management controllable, because managers, you are in charge of those processes. And it's always a journey of improvement. And again, joy, stressing, it's about progress, not necessarily perfection. You have to feel you're progressing, very important. So improvement, what's involved in improvement? First of all, we are all human, let's accept that. Mistakes will be made, and that's fine, that's fine. But when the mistakes are made, let's focus in on the process, what went wrong. It shouldn't be about a blame, who did it? It should be what went wrong with the process. Let's work on making the process better. The standard calls them non-conformities, the incidents, the issues. It uses the term non-conformities. When things go wrong, especially things that are impacting the customer, you need to log it. And then you need to do the correction. You need to appease the customer as quickly as possible. But you notice these things are reoccurring. That's a problem. That's where problem solving comes in. And the standard provides guidance on problem solving. It calls it corrective action. Something has gone wrong. It's happening again. You need to get to the root cause. You do corrective action.
So we're coming to our third self-assessment questionnaire. And again, I'm going to put it in the chat so we can move on. But ask yourself, think over what Betty has presented so far. And is your organization operating more effectively and efficiently over time? Yes, somewhat, or no?
Evidence-based decision-making. Now, we like to make those decisions and not use the data, not use the information. In QMS, that's not how it works. You need to reference the data, you need to reference the information. Let's look at monitor and measure. In the standard stresses certain things that must be monitored and measured. By the way, monitor is bigger than measure. You can monitor everything, but you cannot measure everything. So measure is sort of like a subset of monitor. So let's look at the broader word monitor. So you need to monitor everything. So the standard says when it comes to monitoring, here are the things you need to monitor. You need to monitor your suppliers. You need to monitor your suppliers. You need to monitor your process. If you want control of a process, you need to monitor the process. You need to monitor your output, your product or service. You will do 2 checks on your product or service, your product and service. You will do the check of verification. Did you do it right? But you will also do the check of validation. Did you do the right thing? Go back. Why did the customer come to you? Are you handing over something that is fit for the purpose for which it is intended? And monitor customer satisfaction. You need to also monitor your objectives. Remember when you do the performance review, so you're monitoring your customer satisfaction. So you're talking to your customers. Remember, They are the alpha and the omega. They told you what they want, you have delivered, you need to find out from them whether they were satisfied. You need to monitor your objectives. The reason you're doing that is to achieve those objectives, and those objectives would have been aligned to your quality policy. You have this data. You collected this data for a reason. You need to analyze and you need to evaluate the data. And in this evidence base, don't you forget lessons learned. So bring all of that in. Bring in your intuition as well, but bring in the data, bring in the information, and bring in the lessons learned. Relationship management, you must be involved in stakeholder analysis. You just must be involved. You have to understand that people stay in relationships because they're experiencing value. Let's talk about the people involved in your organization, the staff. Maybe you might have a board of directors. You might have shareholders. All these people are stakeholders. That's important to them. Your customers, your suppliers, anybody that has a part to play in you delivering to the customer, you need to be clear on what value they're getting from this relationship. Because people stay in relationships where they feel value. Bottom line. Think of those relationships you're no longer in. Think win-win-win. You know, I was making a presentation to the National Trust, and Kirk Elliott, he's a photographer. When I said think win-win, Kirk said to me, I like to say think win-win-win. And I knew right away what he was talking to. He was talking to the supply chain. And so your supplier has to think they're winning because garbage in is garbage out. The organization has to feel they're winning, and the customer has to think they're winning. Think win-win-win. Within your organization, you have the internal supply chains. And in the internal supply chain, every member of staff has a triple role. Every member of staff is a worker or a processor. Every member of staff is a supplier because they're there to produce something, deliver something. And every member of staff is a customer. They are receiving resources, receiving information for them to do their work. So this think win-win applies to both your internal supply chain as well as the external supply chain. Trust, foundational. This is what people are asking you to implement this thing for. This is why they're showing you to give a self-declaration. They want to be able to trust you to deliver consistently and satisfactorily. And finally, communication, the lifeblood of any organization, the lifeblood of any relationship. Let's just recap those 7 principles: customer focus, leadership, engagement of people, process approach, improvement, evidence-based decision-making, and finally, relationship management.
And that brings us to the last question in the self-assessment. Does your organization generally achieve its objectives, financial, operational, customers, and other? And you're answering again, yes, somewhat, and no. Now, as I indicated, these are your questions that you would keep the answers. And if you've answered all no, it means you need to get engaged with MOS or the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, because it says that you need to be involved in QMS, you need some assistance. So if you're answering all no, you have the contact details, and that means that you can access the solutions that's there. If you've answered all yes, you are either ISO 9001 QMS certified, or you are well prepared, you're on your way, you are ready for certification. And if finances does not permit, you maybe can't get that certification now, it means that you are ready for some type of self-declaration, you are ready for some first party or even a second party declaration that you are in fact following the principles of ISO 9001. So bear that in mind. If you are not certified as yet, but you have answered yes to 3 or more of these questions. Now, if you are somewhat, you lukewarm, 4 of them saying somewhat, or maybe 2 yeses, 2 no's, you're in between. It says that you understand the ideals of the 7 principles of the ISO 9001 quality management system. However, you practice these ideals in some areas, and in some areas maybe not. That still means there's opportunity for solutions, there's opportunity for engagement to get you to that all yes, all 4 of these questions being answered yes. And Betty, in the beginning and introduction, she says, ISO 9001 is just business common sense. So if it is business common sense, then you would want to make sure that you're on the right side of that common sense. So that is actually the end of our self-assessment. And before we go on to our Q&A, I just want to tell you why we're doing all of this. What's the point? Why this talk about quality? Why this discussion? Where does the standards fall into play? And at the top of there, this is the UNIDO quality infrastructure model. And what you're seeing at the top there is the consumers, the customers. That is what's most important in an ISO 9001 quality management system. And when we think of quality infrastructure on the grand scheme, internationally, regionally, and nationally, it all comes back to the customers. At the core of that is your legislation, your governance, the things that you must do no matter where you are, the laws. We know whatever industry you're in, there are generally laws that govern that. That's at the core. And if you're following these laws, then you're ready now to get standards, codes, and guidelines. That's the orange one you see there. When we think of the quality institutions that exist. So you are ready to get your standards, your codes, and your guidelines, and you have various metrology requirements that you would have to meet as well. So that's where the quality institutions come in. And once you are meeting those standards, we can step up a level. You are now ready for quality infrastructure services, certification. And along that there, you see that standards, you see that testing, you see that inspection and certification at all levels, some degree happens. And you have the quality infrastructure services being offered along each of those quadrants, where you can have the inspection, the measurements, the testing, and certification. And as I said earlier, certification doesn't always have to be a third party. It can be first party, second party. It depends on what the customer wants. That is what drives it. And with that, you understand you as an enterprise, you are constantly trying, and that's why you see those arrows going both ways. You're trying to meet the customer needs, and you're trying to ensure that you follow whatever governance principles, laws, legislation that exists, whatever institutional requirements that may be there in terms of standards, codes, and guidelines, and you access the quality infrastructure services to be able to verify, validate, and demonstrate that quality assurance for your customer. So this is really the bigger picture, and QMS ISO 9001 is just one tool in there. And as an organization, depending on what your industry is, of course, we understand and appreciate that there are many tools, there are many pieces of legislation that you would have to follow. And the QMS 9001 system really just gets you in the door and able to meet those requirements and, of course, guarantee customer satisfaction. So as indicated, you've answered the self-assessment questionnaire, and I did say that, if you're getting all 4 saying yes, what does that mean for you? And I gave you an indication on where you are and what you would have to do. So how can SLBS and MOS help you in getting to the next steps?
Okay, for this particular session, what MOS is promoting is its virtual sessions for your staff. Remember, engagement of people means that people have to be aware, people have to be competent. If you're trying to make a change, and this is change management, if you're trying to implement this system because you have recognized gaps, then they're going into change management mode. And I keep saying to people, when it comes to change management, initially, there are 3 things that have to be clear to people. 1, what it is you're doing. 2, why it is you're doing it. And 3, what is in it for me? YFM. And so MOS has a number of sessions that we put on with regard to QMS. Any of you who have visited my website, there is the on-demand QMS. So whenever you want, be it if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you want to do a webinar, then that's available. My thing is just get to know about this. This body of knowledge is just so important. This body of knowledge is so versatile. My thing is get to know about it. You need to know that you know it. And so with those on-demand webinars, the first webinar is free. So even if you don't want to spend any money, at least register to view the first webinar, because it gives you a sense of what this is about. And it also gives you, in there, you see a template of a quality plan. But right now, those on demand, which are pre-recorded webinars, and each webinar is about half an hour. So we're talking in 2 hours, you can complete this, going for $19.99 US and for $24.99 if you want an e-certificate with it. So that's one of your options. But again, if you don't want to pay any money at all, remember there's a free webinar. At least do the free webinar. If you're looking for sensitization for your staff, and this is what I call QMS in a nutshell, the taster. Oh God. I mean, this is where we get into the homes. This is where we get into the R is for recipient, where we promote the tool rolls back, which is based on QMS, right? And where the R, the first R is the recipient. Whom are you serving? Are you serving your child? Are you serving your significant other? Are you serving your fellow worker? Are you serving your supervisor? Are you serving your manager? And we provide guidance in a fun and motivational way. So what we did today was QMS in a nutshell, the principles based on ISO 9, but this one is called the taster. And this is where you're creating an awareness. You need to get them excited. They need to know what's in it for them. Let me tell them what's in it for them. I am using this in the relationship with my children. I'm using this in the relationship with my husband. All this is virtual offerings, no more than 20 persons per sessions. Because that means two small companies can decide to come together and pay for the session. Because remember now, people training for a company now is cheaper than pre-COVID. Because when you were training pre-COVID, you had to provide lunch and you had to provide snacks and you had to provide a venue. But now they can be at work and doing the training. So continue the training. Don't think it is the time. I know you want to cut costs, but training allows people to be competent to deliver consistently and effectively to your customers. Ensures customer satisfaction. Then we have training. And in this training, there are two trainings I'm offering virtually. And there are two half-day trainings. The first one is QMS training. And in this training, we focus on risk, customers, processes, and results specific to your organization. And at the end of that training, you come out with a quality plan for a particular product or service. Usually, I suggest you use a product or service that has the most issues. Because remember, it's a system. So once you look at one sample product or service, you can right away see gaps in your system by just looking at that one quality plan. So a training output, the output of this training is a quality plan. So in response to the market demand for customer service, I do the training called customer satisfaction, product service quality, as well as the customer service. So in this 2 half-day training, we focus on the quality of the product service as well as the customer service. And again, your output is going to be a draft quality plan based on one of your products or services. And these are the costs that Moz is charging in 2021.
Yeah, so the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, of course, our focus is a bit wide. The national standards body in St. Lucia. So when we think of the standard ISO 9001, it is in fact a national standard, and you can access and get a copy of that standard from us at the SLBS. Now, SLBS is a full member of ISO. What does that mean for you? If you are going to procure that standard from the SLBS, you're going to get it at 50% less the ISO price. That is what it means for you and the benefit of having a national standards body that is a full member. Of course, if you are interested in other standards, which are not necessarily national standards, of course, we can still access that. And we have a suite of other standards. Nationally, we have just under 600 national adoptions, and we do sale of standards. And through our partnerships and MOUs with other agencies, you have access to international standards, ASTM standards, British standards, BSI, standards, a number of other institutions that we partner with, you have access to their standards through us at various rates. We do label assessments if you're into product, if you're into having a product, we do label assessments. We also have barcode generation as a service, especially if you're an agro processor. You can get your barcodes from us at reduced rates. We have technical assistance program where outside of our normal functions, and you would know of other regulatory functions, but when we think of our voluntary certification and our ability to do specific standards for industries, that comes under our technical assistance. If you think you're ready for auditing, while we do not offer accredited certification to management systems, we can do assessments for you. We have on staff trained auditors, lead auditors to ISO 9000 and some of the other management system standards, and they can work with you towards giving you that type of internal audit or pre-audit for when you are ready to receive your auditors. The SLBS, through our metrology department, also does verification and calibration of measuring devices, and that includes weights and measures, pressure devices, temperature as well. So we have our key process and product certification programs. And again, you can contact us for your specific product. As long as there is a standard, our services are based on where standards exist. So as long as there is a standard, we can be of service to you. And we come to the question and answers section. Okay, so this is from Fenella Joseph from St. Lucia. What pointers do you have for an organization looking to start with a self-declaration assessment?
First of all, you need to have some internal assessment done. Now, that internal assessment can be done by an outside person, or you can train your people in internal auditing to do that assessment. So what you don't want is the person you're trying to impress with this coming in and find out you really don't have such a system in place. So you need to start off with doing an internal assessment to understand exactly where you are with regard to the standard. This is what I would recommend. Zamala, any other comments there?
Well, of course, you need to get the standard, eh?
Oh, if we're going as far back as that, then we have to talk about awareness first. Yes.
You need to get the standard for sure. And as Betty mentioned, awareness. So it's not about the one person in the organization. It's not about the leader alone in the organization, but everybody being involved. That is really what the ISO 9001 promotes. If it's one person that's going to be driving it, then you will end up in some problems. So get everybody involved, get everybody aware what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's the benefit for the organization, and of course for the staff. And overall, you know, it's the consumer, the customer. What is the overall benefit for the customer? So we have another question coming in, Betty. ISO 9001 appropriate for educational institutions like a university? This is from Celeste Regis.
Yes, actually, ISO 9001 is applicable to any organization of any size. However, since then, ISO has come out with another standard specific to educational institution, and it is 21008, 21008. It's about QMS in education, but yes, 9001 is appropriate. But if you go, we're looking for something more specific for educational institution, ISO has come out with something. They came out with it in 2018, and it is 21008. Thank you, Shoma.
I have another question. Is the certification a once and done something or something that must be done more than once, example, annually? And this is from Kit Jewel.
Certification is usually a 3-year cycle. However, each year there is a surveillance audit being done. So that would be important. So it's a continuous assessment, but the final recertification is usually in 3 years. This session that you did here, it should contribute to PDUs for any of you who are PMP certified or any of you who have any kind of professional certification. This would contribute to your PDUs. Keep that in mind. We talk about value.
Yes, and definitely to add on to the certification, what you have is annual surveillance audits. And now that we're in this pandemic times, a lot of the certification bodies are looking towards and are using what is called virtual audits. And they've developed guidelines for that to support. Dev, thank you very much, Davindra. He has put the direct link to the ISO standard for educational organizations.
Wow.
So, Celeste, you should be able to get that. And again, you can access that standard through us here at the Industry Bureau of Standards.
Now,
And it's not a national standard at this time, but it's because we are full members, you would still get a discount up to 25% of the listed ISO price. But it's not going to be a huge discount because it's not a national adoption.
Thank you so much, Davinda, because you notice it is 21,001, 2018.
Yes.
So yes. I had said 8 miles. Thank you. Oh, I must say about Davindra. Davindra is, as far as I know, the only person in the region who sits on the ISO technical committee for these standards related to quality management. Davindra, can I guess a yes? That's it. I am right about that. You're the only regional person sitting on the ISO TC specifically looking at the quality management standards. Davindra, do I get a thumbs up?
There are others.
Thank you, Zamala, for this. He's a convener.
He's only a regional convener for a working group. A working group under ISO TC 176, but we do have other regional members who serve as technical experts and members of the committee as well.
Thank you so much for being here, Davindra, and for correcting us with that 21,001.
And what it means for him as a convener is that he is the leader of the working group. You know, he really does coordinate the efforts of the working group at actually developing and writing the standard under their purview and their work program. All right, so we are moving along now to the prizes. We have prizes. There's a chance, you know, you will not want to leave here without something. So it's 2 groups, very easy. And we will be asking a series of questions and everybody can answer, but the prize will be awarded to the first group or members from the first group who answer the questions. So if your first name that you registered with starts with a letter between A and L, then you are in group 1, and everybody in that group, everybody with those first names will get the prize. And the first prize is a invitation to Moore's Virtual Relationships 101. Betty, you want to tell us some more about that prize?
Well, let me just tell you how I'm using QMS in my marriage. I hear people been married 24 years. The easiest thing I did was get married. By the way, the wedding is a project. The marriage is operational work. So I'm using QMS in that marriage. And I am aiming to give my man an experience that titillates all his senses. So I take into consideration what he sees, what he hears, what he smells, what he tastes, and so on. After our 20th anniversary, he said to me, tell me what concoction or what potion you gave me that I'm still in love with you after 20 years. I said to him, your question should have been, what has been my value proposition over the 20 years? And people are very aware that he might come in a competitive environment where good men are in demand. So I am using QMS to maintain my good man. And so we have Relationship 101 if you want to maintain your good person, or if you want to improve on the relationship with your good person, we're offering you Relationship 101. And on the slide, we have the feedback we have received from this. And the next session is on Wednesday, October the 20th, 2021 from 6 to 7 p.m. So if you are a member of the winning group, then each member of that winning group would get an invite to register to this particular session entitled Moore's Virtual Relationships 101 Between Couples.
Wonderful. Thank you, Betty. And now this is a stiff competition because the first person who answers the question correctly it doesn't matter what group you're in, whether or not your group wins, you too will win an individual prize, which will be your copy of ISO 9001, the SLNS adoption of that standard. So the first person who answers the question, no matter whether your group wins or not, you will receive a copy. And if you already have ISO 9001, then we will offer you any national standard of your choice. And I said we have up to close to 600. I think it's like 580 something standards that are national standards. So the other option, if you already have 9001, then you could get a national standard of your choice. All right, so we're moving right along. We have some 3 minutes left.
Okay, so let me just say something with regard to the questions. The questions are called fill in the blank. So basically there will be a statement and you need to complete the first letter. There's a clue. So the first letter tells you what word we're looking for. So basically just type that word in the chat and you are already in the winning group. Zamala, go ahead.
Thank you, Betty. So the first question, the check against the customer requirements is specifically referred to as dash. Fenella has responded validation.
Very good, Fenella.
Okay, that one went up very quickly. Thank you very much, Fenella Joseph. And that means the group A, because Fenella is F, has gotten 1 point. We're moving on to the next question. And Celeste Regis has answered, and that is consistency. Thank you.
Well done, Celeste. Well done, Celeste.
And that is 2 points for the group with first letters A to L. And the last question is, customer service is an output while customer satisfaction is an, okay, we have in answers, outcome, 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 outcome.
Who is the first outcome?
The first outcome, I think Celeste was trying for outcome, but she had a typo, but we will take it. We will take it. And outcome, and that is a 3rd point. What was wrong with the L to Z? L to Z was not there. But all 3 points go to group A, which is persons with their first letters starting from A to L. So all persons
with group A,
starting from A to L, you will receive a prize, and that is the invitation. You will get that via email. So, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, we're going to launch a feedback poll. A very simple question is going to pop up on your screen. And, you know, was this beneficial to you? Yes or no? This will remain open. We will keep the poll open, but we really have come to the end of our session. Please continue sending in your responses to the feedback poll. Continue answering. Let us know, was this session beneficial to you? Betty, on to you for the last words.
I cannot stress, I think what we tried to do was to demonstrate the value of this body of knowledge. Personally, I have not come across another body of knowledge as versatile as quality management systems. I think other persons who are recognizing the value of this, not just in business, in organizations and in their life, will tell you the same thing. I think every single person needs to know about this body of knowledge. And it's probably what has probably happened is that you probably already know. You need to know that you know. So when somebody says to you, do you know about QMS? You can say, yes, I know about QMS. And so that is what that's my advice to you, that this is something I have found beneficial in every aspect of my life. And you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to get to know about it and to apply it in every aspect of your life, in particular in your organization.